This will be number 17 in the 6-cycle oddball series, and today we're going to make the cam, and that's on page 164 of the book. This is it, and I'm going to show you two methods to make that cam. The first thing we're going to do is just put this slug in the chuck, and I'm going to bore a hole in here that will fit over the big gear. I'll show you where it's going to fit. I've already turned the outside to the diameter of the cam, which is the large diameter. And I just have to bore this out. The first thing we're going to do is spot drill it and drill a hole, and then open it up with a boring bar. Okay, now we'll switch to the boring bar. I'll take a quick measurement here. On a nice fit on this gear hub, which is 625. And we're at 515 right now, so we got a little over 100 to go. Got 45 to go. Yeah, we got about 5. Still 3 to go. Just make sure that it's not fitting in there. Oh, that just fits in there. So we're just gonna do some spring passes, and I think that'll slide right in there. There it is. There it is. I'm going to take that corner off of there so it goes in all the way. That's just to give a little clearance for the solder, so this will go up in there tight. There it is. Now we'll move over to the milling machine. What I've got here is a 5/8 end mill, which is what it says to use, and I got to go in 156 deep. And I got to go, I think, 171 degrees around. 171 and a half. So I'm going to set this at 0. Zero's the other way. Right there. And center it. And just... bring it until it touches. Zero that. Slow it down some. And try to cut a 20. You have to go really slow at the end because it's cutting full width with the cutter. I'm about 100 thousandths deep now, so be very slow. Right now we're about 130 deep. We've got to go to 156, so 2 more passes and I'll have it. It probably took us about 25 minutes to do that cut. So this would be the last cut. I'm only taking off 10 thousandths. That's it. Let me vacuum that off and I'll show it to you. We will We'll take that over the lathe and part it off, and it'll be finished. Next thing we're going to do is part that off. I'm going to get a parting tool here. Shows the width at 218. I'm going to make it a little, maybe 220, just to make it even numbers. Now all the things we have to do is round these little sharp corners off of here in the sander. So what I'm going to do here is I put some bluing on here, and I'm going to put two set screws in this, which does not show in the print. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to use a Hall effect ignition and not points. With points, you don't need to do this. But I have to adjust this after I set the timing with the Hall effect ignition. So I need those screws to hold it in place. And then the last thing I'll do is drill a hole through it here and put it on permanently on the gear. Now I'm going to just eyeball it and prick punch two prick punch marks in this, 90 degrees apart. This isn't real fussy. The reason I'm doing 90 degrees apart, one, they hold better, but two, I can get at one of the screws, and I only need one of them to use when I set the timing. But if they're 90 degrees apart, I'm more likely to get a hold of one of them. So I'll just drill that and tap it and put a number 2 set screw in it. Now I'm going to tap that one and then drill the other one. So this one's finished, and now I'll show you the second method of making this. What I have here is 2 rings. One is the outside of the cam. That's this ring. It's the same radius, same exact thing. And then the other ring has the inside hole and is the inside the exact same radius. So when I put these together, I've got that cam without this. But what I'm going to do is put this down on the print, which is 1:1, it's full-size print, and I'm going to put a mark on it so that I can saw this off and solder it onto the smaller ring. What I'm going to do here is this will sit right on that print, and if I line the hole up with that, I have got the angle here, the 71 degrees, and I can mark it on there. But it isn't the same as this because there's a radius here. So what I'm going to do is extended those lines down so they're at the edge of the cam. You see the circle here and the edge of the cam. So when I put this on here, I can see those 2 lines. Then I can take this straight edge and put it on that line and mark it, and I'll just saw that piece off of there. There's one, and the other one is here, thusly. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is cut this piece out and solder it onto here, and I'll have the cam. This is basically an experiment. I've never done this before, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm saving this part, so I'm going to cut on that side of the line and then sand up to the line. That's the piece I'm going to use. Stand it up to the line and get the angle right. it gets pretty hot when I sand it. I had to get some water to cool it off. It's pretty hard to see, but this, I'm matching it up with the other cam. It's right on top of there. You see you've got this basically the same length. That this one's rounded, so it's a little smaller. When I round this, it'll be exactly the same. So we got to solder these two pieces together now. And put a little flux on this.
Push it together.
Now I'm going to cut a small piece of silver braze to put on. Get some tweezers. You see, this doesn't take much. I'm only going to put 3 little tiny pieces like that on there. And that's probably more than enough. Okay, that's it. I will heat it up. I think that's good. The ideal thing would be to heat this from the bottom, but I can't really do it, so I'm going to try both sides. You can see that that flowed all the way around. They got a good joint there. So there's the two cams, and as you can see, they're pretty much alike. And the distance of opening is identical as far as I can see. So this was just an experiment, and what I'm going to do is when I get the engines together, I'll put this one in there and try it. But I think that's an easier way to make it, and it's equally as good as long as you can silver braze it. I don't think you could soft solder this, because when that cam comes up, the roller hits it pretty hard, and the constant pounding would probably break the soft solder. Or you could probably put some pins in that thing. I don't know, but as long as you can silver braze, that's the way I would do it. So the next thing I'm going to show you is drilling that hole for this gear. Now, I haven't drilled it to their dimension because I found out before that the dimension was a little close, and especially if you make the gear yourself, it can be a tiny bit different. So if you do it this way, you won't have to worry about that. And I'm just going to put that in there, and that's nice in the bearing. And then I'm going to put the gear on it, the small gear. And then I'm going to set this gear in place like that, and take a center finder, put that down in here, and just draw a little arc right there. Now you can see the little arc that made. So now what I'm going to do is find the center of this, which is 3/8 down from there, and make another line, and then make a prick punch.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 75, right there. So that's the center of this.
So now I'm going to go and prick punch this, and I'm not going to prick punch it right here. I'm going to go a little bit to the left of that, because like I said, I'm going to have an adjustment, and those gears were tight together, and I don't want them tight together when it's running. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the line, the prick punch mark is just a little bit to the left of that line that I made with the center finder. Okay, that's centered. We're going to lock up the table. Now the last drill holes is a letter N drill, which is just right for the reamer. I'm doing this in the milling machine so it's nice and straight. I probably could do it in the drill press, but it's just easier to do the mill for when you want it really perfect. There's that hole. And now, the next thing I have to do is drill a hole in here and tap it to hold that pin in there. I'm putting a number 3 screw in this one. So now the next thing we have to do is make the pin that gear rides on. And what I do is I don't just make a plain flat pin. I make it eccentric so I can adjust the backlash in the gears. So let's just see how good that hole is without doing the eccentric. It's got a little bit of slop. That wouldn't matter though. That would be fine. But just what I would expect. So now we'll make the eccentric for that. And that's pretty easy to do. We put in a piece of 3/8 stock. You notice the pin is 5/16 in diameter. So what I'm going to do is turn a 1/2 inch of this down to 5/16 so it'll fit in the side. Set up my stop for a 1/2 inch. About another 50. We'll start with 10. I'm going to sneak up on this slowly because I'm still about 5 over. So we're going to go. This doesn't really have to be this good a fit, but I like to do this just for practice when it doesn't matter. See, that fits in there perfectly now. No slop. Slides in there nice. A little tight, but that's good. So now, the next thing I'm going to do is part this off. I'm going to slide it out. I can actually saw it off in the saw. Probably make more sense. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to use a 16/1000 feeler gauge on one jaw. And what that's going to do is move it over enough so I have an eccentric. So that's just moving that over. I'm not sure, it doesn't move it over 16, but it moves over almost 16/1000. I found out that 16 usually works good for me, so I just use it, 15 to 16. What I did is I set the stop so I have just about a 1/16 of an inch shoulder here. And now I'm going to turn this down to the size that the gear will fit, which is also 5/16. Now it's got to go 4. We'll just take off 3 here. check it with the gear. Just doesn't go in there. That's just about right. It's about 1 over. That has to be a loose fit on there, just enough so it spins nice and clean. So I'll take 1/1000th at a time till it spins loose. That's a pretty good fit. So now what I'm going to do is take this off, so I just have just a tiny bit showing there. I could probably leave the gear right on there. Now I can drill that and put a thread in it so that I have put a washer and a bolt to hold it on there. So I'm just going to use a number 3 bolt for that. I drill in there plenty, so I have plenty of clearance for the end of the tap. Just want to get enough thread in there so I don't bottom the screw out and have to cut the screw off. And that's finished with the turning. I can take that out of there now. Actually, I should take that sharp edge off of there first. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just take this to the saw and saw a slot here so I can turn it with a screwdriver. And it's, you know, I just eyeball center it and go in maybe a 32nd of an inch. I'm using this chuck so I can get a hold of it. It's an awful small piece. Okay, there's the slot. It's a little off center, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to show. It's got a washer that goes on top. Put the gears on there and see how they mesh. Now see, there's a little play there. So I can take that play out by just turning that eccentric a little. And make sure I turn it the right direction. Let's see which way we're going to go here. Yeah, that's tight. Now see, that's 0 play there. Oh, it's still here. Can go more. Now that's about what I want, just so I can just barely feel the play. So that's straight up and down. Make sure it goes all the way around nice, without any bind, and that's good. So now I'll make a washer for this end, and when it's adjusted properly, I'm going to take the screw and screw it down in there tight and make a mark on this piece, and then I'll put a flat on it so it always goes back in the same place. So I'm going to throw a set screw in there and mark that while it's adjusted. I got just enough play to feel. Okay, so I pull this out. There's a little tiny mark on there from that screw. What I'm going to do is take this over to the mill and put that exactly straight up and down and mill a flat. So this will always go back in the exact same position. So there's the flat, just 10 thousandths deep. That's the flat, it's about 10 thousandths deep. Put that in there now with the flat up. That's still perfect. Just enough play to feel. It goes all the way around nicely. Let's turn it so nice. The screws aren't even set on this and it turns it. That's good. So now the next thing we got to do is put the camshaft on there, and we got to mark the exhaust valve push rod for another slot. What we do now is put a little bluing on the slider on the cam push rod. So this is all in the book, but I'm sliding that in, and it's against the cam on the high side. And now I'm going to take something very sharp like an X-Acto tool and make 2 lines on that push rod. Do 1 each side. I hope you can see that. It's pretty clear, but sometimes in the camera it doesn't show. You can see how deep that slot's supposed to be. It's 0. Oh yeah. So that's 108 thousandths deep. Okay, so I got it in there and it's lined up by eye. Now you can make this a tiny bit wider than an 1/8 inch. It doesn't matter. And it shows it 3/32 deep, which is 0.93. So I'm going to go 0.93 deep. And probably take light passes on that, say 20 at a time. Go 0.93. Let's go 20. See what it looks like. So it shows going up to the halfway point, so that's what I'll do. Let's take this over and try it. Okay, now we have to put the front on here to check it with the slider. So now that's in place. What should happen here is if the cam is that way, and I hold a little pressure on this, this should pop in when I get the cam fully open. So if I hold this way and hold this in and let the cam push it out, it should snap in like that. Did you see it snap in? Let's try it again. That's in. The cam's coming up. The cam pushes the lifter out. And this just popped in. So that's perfect. I think we've covered the adjustment right and everything, so they should be able to. So now I'm just going to make the washer for to hold the cam gear on with. And we got to drill a hole in it for a number 3 bolt. There it is. Put that on there. It looks pretty finished. Put this over in the light where you can get out and see it. And that could be brass too. To think of it, I could use a brass bolt, a brass keeper, but that one's steel. So in the next video, we're going to make this part for the governor. It looks pretty complicated, but it isn't very difficult to make actually. So I'll show you how to do that and give you step by step on that part. So that's the end of video number 17. Thank you very much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Thank you very much.